So I'm a couple of days into my first road trip with my new transit van, and I already noticed there's a couple of things I wish I'd bought when I ordered this. One of the things I wish I'd got is cruise control, which would make highway driving so much smoother. The other thing is the side door, and I wish I got the electronic closing because it's a heavy door and it really slams when you close it manually. Anyway, just a couple of minor things. Doesn't affect the overall van. I'm still very pleased with what I got. This is the ultimate road trip vehicle. So that's the status report for now. Today I'm going to undertake my first project on my van build of my 2022 Ford Transit. So the project involves putting on the kill mat sound barrier to keep the van ride real quiet. But before I apply the kill mat, I have to take off the load protection package that I bought as part of my new vehicle. So let me show you how that works. So I got this handy tool here that allows me to pry off these little clip-ons, little clipping attachments here. So you just put it on like that, squeeze it together, and off out it comes. So then you remove all the pins on the wall panels. And so here's the kill mat. Comes in a big package, quite heavy, 20 or 30 pound load, and it comes with a number of these sheets, these with a sort of rubberized backing that provides the insulation. I got a tool here to roll them smooth, and I've got the Sharpie marker to mark the pads as to where I need to cut them, and then use this tool, cut them down. And you see I have a bunch of leftover strips from all the panels that I've already applied it to. So you just stick it on, you smooth it down, and you get your roller and you roll up and down like that. So it's all very straightforward. It took me about an hour to remove all the panels and another couple hours to apply all the kill mat. I still have yet to do the doors. They're going to be a little more challenging, but this was very straightforward. And then the next project will be installing the insulation on there. And you see I got a big roll of insulate, spray can to put it on, spray can of adhesive upon which it sticks, and it'll apply directly on there. So from back here you can see what it looks like. So far the walls and the wheel wells have taken one box. I think I've used a couple of sheets from the second box. So the second box I'm going to use to insulate underneath the floor. And as I mentioned, I still have to take these door panels off and apply it back there. So this is my latest update on my van build. So I've installed all the kill mat in the ceiling and the walls. I've yet to do the floor, but I'm putting the insulation in the walls right now. You can see that I've got the thin slate insulation there put in the walls. I've got a little bit of roughed in wiring, I bought 2 boxes of the kill mat sound insulation, and so you can see that there's more than enough to cover the walls and the roof. So I decided to cut it into thin strips and put it in the ribs on the floor for added sound from the road noise. So hopefully that works out. So that's what it looks like at this stage. And now here's a view of the kill mat with it all rolled in. Next stop is to put the microcell down. So now I've got the first layer of the microcell installed and cut it. So this is the 0.4 inch layer that makes it flush between the ribs and the grooves. So to glue the first layer down, I use this 3M high strength 90 spray adhesive, which works great. You give it about 15 seconds for it to dry, and then it's tacky, and the first layer goes down real nice. And so it took a couple hours to do that, but now I've got the second layer, which is 1/2 inch, and I use the so I bought the load protection package that comes with the floor. And so you can see I've got a template from which to use. I use that to cut out the 1/2 inch microcell. And so now it's a matter of just layering that on top, and I'm good for the plywood layer. Oh, and by the way, I used duct tape to tape together these 3 pieces of 1/2 inch microcell. And I've made it quite easy to use the template of the load protection package, the floor template, right over top of this, kept it straight. So that was a key thing. I fussed with these 3 pieces independently and then realized I better stick them together with this tape, and it worked great. So there you have it. Let's put in this second layer and see what it looks like. Okay, I've now got the 1/2-inch layer of microcell installed, and it fits fairly well due to using that template. And there's a little bit of a bow in the middle here. That's because the sheets of microcell are a little, they're not completely square and they're not completely flat. So they warp a little bit, but I think once I get the plywood over top here, it should flatten out quite nicely and tuck in right around the corners. So looks pretty good. So on to the next step and put the plywood down. So I'm now ready to install the plywood flooring to the van, and I've overlaid the floor mat that came with it on top of my 3 sheets of balsam plywood. And you can see here that I've made some lap joints, 1-inch lap joints here, to give it a little more strength to connect the 3 sheets of plywood. So there's a close-up of the lap joint. And I've traced around, all around the mat, and I'm about to do the jigsaw part and cut this out. So this is what it looks like before I start. I've now got the plywood flooring installed, and I just have to sand down the cracks and install some vinyl flooring. So that's the next step. So I'm going to seal around the edges with a crack sealer so it'll snug the plywood right into the frame. So once again, I was able to use the flooring template for the vinyl flooring, and I left about a 1/2-inch gap all the way around just so I had some wiggle room before I do my final cuts on the vinyl flooring. It's pretty handy to have that template. It's just a matter of just tracing around the outside and cutting her up. Okay, so now we got the floor in. Just putting on the last little touches and rolling the flooring down with the roller pin. And looks like it fit fairly well. So we'll have to cut some of the excess glue off later and do the final trim on the vinyl flooring, but it looks pretty good. So I'm done putting the flooring down, and here's a quick look at it. I'm about to put in some of the wall and my water tank. But I wanted to share a little bit of reflection on my floor install. I wish I'd done it a little bit different. So what I did is I put the strips of microcell between the ribs of the floor, and then I put 1 layer down, and then I put a 1/2-inch sheet of plywood on in 3 sections with some lap joints overlapping, and it worked out quite well. But what I found was the microcell wasn't completely flat. And I don't know whether it's from the manufacturer or how it was cut, but it kind of bubbled up a little bit underneath the plywood. And so in hindsight, I wish I'd glued the layer of microcell directly to the underside of the plywood before I had put it down. And in that way, the glue would have kept it completely flat and spread out because I didn't put any glue between any of the layers of the microcell. I used the 3M spray adhesive between the floor and the strips of the microcell, but I didn't put any more adhesive between the layers of the microcell or between the microcell and the plywood. And like I'm trying to explain is I think it would have been better to have used that spray adhesive and glued that top layer of microcell directly to the underside of the plywood and then put the plywood down. And I think that would have prevented the bowing, and it would have made sure that the microcell spread out properly. Anyway, what's done's done, and it works out okay, but it's I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and so I wish I had done it that way. Anyway, so but on to the next step of my build. Okay, and so while I'm at it, I thought I would also show how the water tank works. And so you can see here that it has a cutout underneath here, and it goes perfectly right over top of the wheel well, like this. Tied up against the wall. I'm going to put some strapping down to hold it in place securely. So at this stage, I'm still trying to decide whether to put the water tank in the left or the right side of the van, and also which side to put my fridge as well as the kitchen area, the sink and the
gray water tank. What I'm trying to do is minimize the amount of cannibalizing of the lobby space within the van itself, given that I have to have a fairly deep garage for my mountain bike to go in directly on the tray. Once I figure that out, I'll explain what I did.